Okay, we are live, but I gotta let it breathe, baby, just for a moment here. Hang tight while we bring on Facebook. Lots to discuss tonight, everybody. Really excited to be here with you, and we are good. Welcome in, everybody. It is the Mile High Huddle podcast, and I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest, who you know, who you love, Zack Kelberman. Zack, we have a lot to get into tonight, but first things first, the most breaking news as it relates to the Denver Broncos is Christian Parker. He's taken his talents to Philly to go reunite with Vic Fangio. And from what we've learned so far, it's not a promotion. What the heck is going on? Why is he going to Philly? And why did the Broncos allow him to leave?
Well, it seemed like it was a matter of when and not if, Chad, he was going to leave Denver for greener pastures and literally in this case, greener pastures with the Eagles. But we have to remember that CP interviewed for the Patriots DC job. He interviewed for the Packers DC job. So it seemed like maybe the Broncos were bracing for Parker to get away. We don't know his exact title yet, but like you said, it could be a lateral move. It's a big loss for Denver regardless because of the work he did with the defensive backs, with the secondary. Last season, you could point to a downturn, but I think that was more VJ scheme oriented. Regardless, they're going to have to fill a position on VJ staff this season.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Zach, there's a reason why he's such a hot commodity around the NFL. But if you look at, pardon me, the skins that are on Parker's wall, I mean, Patrick Surtain and his kind of short microwave development, right? He turns in a Pro Bowl caliber rookie season, obviously doesn't get voted to the Pro Bowl, but bonafide Pro Bowler, nay, all-pro, nay, best corner in the NFL in year 2. Takes a little bit of a step back, but in year 3, but not one that we could really point to as some big demarcation from what he had produced heretofore. But that's not it. You know, you've got Jaquan McMillian. I mean, there are some skins. Justin Simmons continuing to make hay. PJ Locke's emergence this past season. So it does feel like it's going to be a bit of a loss. But as you say, VJ's expertise is secondary. So at least there's that hope that, it'll be mitigated somewhat losing Parker.
And even Caden Stearns looked pretty good under Parker's watch before the injuries took hold. Even Damari Mathis, Chad, looked good in 2022, except for that one game. He had a horrible 2023, but again, I think it's more VJ scheme-oriented. Christian Parker is one of the hottest names in league circles. He was a rising assistant for years. I'm not surprised, though it does sting that he's officially gone.
It'll be interesting to see how the Broncos roll with those particular punches. Some hellos here. We got the Papa Bear, David McElrath, jumping in early and breaking the ice, as it were, on Super Chat. David, so good to see you, big dog. Appreciate you and all that you do to support us and keep the conversation going every single night. He says, good evening, Broncos country. Zach, Dylan, Deacon Scott, forgets you, boy. You forgot you, boy. I mean, what am I going to do here? David, we love you. Thank you, big dog. Buckham indeed. Much love and respect. Early birds. David Yunkin, we see you. Jeff Dubb, DTR. Lawrence Rivera, early bird on Facebook, out of the gates. I see String Guy. I see a lot of the regulars. Awesome to be with everybody. Okay, Zach. First things first, beyond this conversation of Christian Parker. And guys, we want to hear what you think about the Broncos losing Parker. And it's unusual. Let me just put it this way. It's unusual for a team to allow any assistant coach, by the way, let alone a coveted kind of up-and-comer. I mean, the Broncos did invest in Parker. They sent him to that program.
The accelerator program?
Sent him to the accelerator program. They could have sent a lot of different candidates to that. They sent him. It's very rare to see a team allow an assistant coach to depart for any job that is not a clear and obvious promotion. So I'm going, why? Why did the Broncos let him go? It's kind of a head scratcher.
You mentioned one reason possibly is reuniting with Vic Fangio, where CP kind of got his start and cut his teeth and made his bones. Maybe there was a dispute behind the scenes between what they want to do on defense and what Parker's done. But we were also talking about before we went on, it's not unprecedented for a team to allow a lateral move. The Chiefs let Eric Bieniemy get away to go to Washington, where he was the OC. He called plays in Washington, but it happens sometimes. Unfortunately, the Broncos did lose one of, if not their most coveted assistant on the entire coaching staff.
Then there's the inverted version of that, and that's the what was it, circa 2015 Cincinnati Bengals unwilling to let Vance Joseph out of his contract as their secondary coach for a clear promotion as a defensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos under Gary Kubiak. That was Kubiak's first choice, Zach, back in 2015. VJ, who was a former quality control guy slash secondary, went on to become secondary guy under him in Houston. That was his first choice. The Brown family said, no, we're not going to let you out of it. Broncos ended up hiring Wade Phillips, and it worked out for the best in the short term. Eventually, though, the Broncos did get Vance Joseph in the house. It didn't pan out so well.
No, it did not. Your daily reminder: the Broncos could have had Kyle Shanahan, but unfortunately, Joe Ellis.
Indeed, Joe Ellis. Let's see, Lawrence, we got The Rock checking in. What's up, dude? So good to see you. The mayor of our community, especially on Facebook. Much love and respect, guys. Much more to get into. Before, though, we got to remind you, all right, Little Caesars, the official pizza sponsor of the NFL, it knows football fans love a great game, obviously, and a great deal. So, tossing out our Little Caesars, a challenge, and they're calling it Pick Six for slices and sticks. If there is a pick six during Super Bowl 58, which is coming up, guys, it's coming up at the end of this week. Fans who accepted the challenge on the Little Caesars app get a free slices and sticks, period.
Yeah, listen up, Broncos country. We have partnered with NFL legend Derek Brooks of the Tampa Bay Bucks because he knows all about the pick six, having returned one during Super Bowl 37. That play led to a 44-yard touchdown and a dub for the Bucks. So accept the challenge today and win some pizza.
I wonder how much of this the Broncos being willing to let Parker go has to do, and it's not a obvious promotion. I mean, we don't know exactly yet what the role is. It's still unspecified, but I wonder, Zach, how much of it has to do with the relationship Sean Payton has with Vic Fangio. Like if Vic Fangio was like, hey, man, I really want him, or even Parker going to Sean Payton and saying, hey, I just really want to go continue learning from Vic, and I feel like it's going to help me XYZ. You know, I interviewed for the Packers DC job, didn't get it. I interviewed for who's the other Patriots, didn't get it. I feel like I need to go back work with Vic, and next time around, And Sean Payton being Sean Payton and having a friendship with Vic is like, well, if it was anyone but Vic, oh, all right. I don't know. I would think in the NFL, Zach, that those kind of considerations take a back seat to the immediate demands of winning right now and what's best for me and what's best for our team right now, not Vic Fangio. But I do wonder.
I would hope it didn't go down like that because the Broncos defense, from the coaching staff perspective, got worse tonight, losing Christian Parker. It wouldn't be the first time. It wouldn't surprise me if loyalty played a part. Look at Ajiro Evero and Nathaniel Hackett. We're speculating. It could be something behind the scenes. I saw a comment that maybe CP and VJ didn't get along or they didn't have the same vision. We don't know, but I'm sure that detail will come out in due time.
Before I turn to this Kirk Cousins business, Mike Edel jumping in with a hello on Super Chat. Thank you, Mike. So good to see you tonight. Go MHH, Broncos country. Go Broncos. Happy Monday. Right back at you. Okay, Zach. So not to say that like Kirk Cousins to Denver was some big, rumor that had been being spread around the Senior Bowl or anything like that. I mean, the overarching buzz coming out of the Senior Bowl week was the idea of Sean Payton and the Broncos looking to be aggressive potentially in the draft and maybe trade up, not free agency, but Kirk Cousins is arguably the number one free agent name at quarterback this year, coming off an injury, Achilles. For those who may have been wondering whether or not Sean Payton could make some hay or pursue anyway, Kirk Cousins, which by the way, I think it would be a great fit. I could see Sean Payton making a lot of hay with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins. Woody Page, longtime insider in Denver, kind of kiboshed that, threw a wet blanket on the idea of Kirk Cousins ever coming to Denver. Here's what he said in a column, quote, "The Broncos will not pursue Kirk Cousins because that ship sailed years ago when John Elway did not bring back Mike Shanahan, but contemplated signing the quarterback fleetingly before hearing his sticker price," which, what was it, Zach, $30 million a year, fully guaranteed over 3. Cousins goes, Page goes on, is old and injured and wants to finish in Minnesota, closed quote. So he'll turn 36, will Kirk Cousins, in August. So he's entering his age 36 season, Zach. How heartbroken are you that Kirk Cousins doesn't seem to be in the Broncos' future?
It's a terrific write up on your part, Chad. I enjoyed your article. I just don't understand why Woody felt compelled to answer a very obvious question. He's not coming here, and he could have ended that sentence at price tag. Kirk Cousins is going to be comparable to what Russell Wilson costs. He's going to be 36 next season, coming off a torn Achilles for an already immobile quarterback. And you mentioned maybe Sean Payton can make some hay with him. Well, we were saying the same exact thing about Russell Wilson, who is also the same age. No, I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan, but how many Super Bowls, how many playoff games has he won Minnesota? We already know his ceiling as an NFL quarterback. And I sound like a broken record, but miss me on that. Miss me on all the other veteran reclamation projects, yada, yada. Please, 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 George Payton, Sean Payton, if you're listening, draft a quarterback, please.
Yeah, we got to do away with this isn't a shot at Kirk Cousins. And it's true, Zach, you've been one of the, over the years, you've always been an admirer of Kirk Cousins' game.
I'm a Kirk guy.
Yeah, a Kirk guy, bona fide, but you're also a realist, and especially as it relates to kind of reading the room, or let's say, the lay of the land in Denver. And that is the idea of the Broncos being one middle of the road quarterback away from winning it all. That line of thinking, that philosophy, that outlook, it's so outdated. I mean, it's dead. The Broncos, Zach, have tried every which way of finding the franchise quarterback through the veteran route, from giving out big free agent dollars to making blockbuster trades to even trying like kind of smaller scale reclamation projects. And I mean, they've tried every which veteran way. It's not to say, Zach, over the years since Peyton retired, that the Broncos haven't tried the draft. It's just that the one first round pick they did put, or invest, I should say, in quarterback, not only did it turn out to be a bust, but it was a spectacular flaming bust. Like, Paxton Lynch was an utter waste of a pick, an utter waste of time for the Broncos. But still, that can't be something that prevents Sean Payton, many years later, what are we, 7, 8 years down the road, from doing what's right and going back to the well. If you're moving on from Russ, no more Cousins, no more Bakers, no more Minshew's. Shout out Keith Cummings, great article on Minshew today. Time to go back to the well.
Yeah, I'm glad we're in agreement there. And you have to look at it from Cousins' point of view as well. Why would he want to leave Minnesota? That's treated him pretty well financially and personnel-wise, and come to Denver. You're losing Justin Jefferson, you're losing TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, and coming to an uncertain situation and a team more than likely going through a rebuild. So I appreciate Page's extent covering the offseason, but yeah, we can lose the Kirk Cousins dream right now.
And by the way, guys, it being obviously the 5th day of February, you're probably going, tonight's the night for the jersey raffle for January. Not to disappoint you, but we got to kick that can down the road till Thursday, because I spent all weekend traveling and part of today traveling to get back. And we just haven't had time to get those ducks in a row, get everything ready to go. So plan on Thursday night. We'll be doing that live raffle for the Super Chat jerseys for the month of January, both, I guess, Super Chat and on Facebook. I got to double check that on Facebook to see if we hit the numbers. But Lawrence, brother, appreciate you. He says, can we poach any up-and-coming coaches from Michigan? I mean, perhaps, Zach, but I'm not going to lie to anyone and pretend I'm an expert on the coaching staff and the sleepers, let alone on the former coaching staff of Jim Harbaugh at Michigan.
And most of which has followed Harbaugh to Los Angeles, and that's where they're going to continue to go. He's been rating that coaching staff, and you can maybe poach a former quarterback of the Michigan program, that being J.J. McCarthy, Lawrence, if that, speaks to your fancy. If not, we'll have to settle for what the Broncos have already.
But yeah, I mean, the idea of looking for that next up-and-comer, though, Lawrence, yes, that was obviously something that Vic Fangio got right. It was Vic Fangio as head coach in Denver that saw something in Parker and brought him here. as a former quality control coach in Green Bay. I think he had 2 years of quality control experience in Green Bay. Maybe he had one as a position coach, but I don't think so. So it was Vic that saw that, cultivated it, kind of helped him turn a corner. I don't fault the dude, Zach, for wanting to reunite with Vic if that was something he was asserting. But for the Broncos to allow it, that's where I'm going. I mean, everybody in here, why are the Broncos letting him go for something that's not a clear, at least from what the reporting is now, promotion? Good question, man. Wish we knew.
Yeah, I'm too naive to think they were just doing what's best for Parker. Maybe there's something going on behind the scenes, but we'll leave it to the Mike Klisses and the Woody Pages out there to get the full scoop.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out. Big Earn, see you in the chat. So good to see you tonight, big dog. Always Broncos country only. That's just the way it is. John Libick on Facebook. What's going on? We see Michaela. Give our best to the little man. I'm sure he's in the room as well with you. Now David wants to know on Facebook, so are they going to trade Patrick Surtain? A lot of scuttlebutt on that front. Surtain, the number 1 and 3 for top quarterback prospect. A lot of scuttlebutt on that front, and it started, Zach, if we, to make sure the provenance on this is clear. It's not just the Broncos, hey, let's trade Patrick Surtain, arguably currently our best player. It's, hey, we want to trade up. It's going to cost an arm and a leg to move up. This year's first-round pick, next year's first-round pick, second next year, more draft capital perhaps this year. Who knows? And it still probably isn't enough to pique the interest, Zach, of a Chicago Bears, a New England Patriots, a Washington. But if you throw in Patrick Surtain as a sweetener, perhaps there's a way. And so that got added. Was it Tony Pauline, I think, that broke that as a genuine thing last week? So is it, where do you fall on this, Zach? Is it something that fans can realistically anticipate, or do you think that it's a guy who's, not necessarily plugged in Denver, kind of jumping to the far reaches of the logical conclusions if the Broncos are trying to trade up?
Well, this is how it would go if they offered the Chicago that. We want to give you Patrick Surtain, a first and a third round pick. Hello? Dial tone. They would not accept, Chad. That would not even start the conversation. That would just elicit laughter from the whole room. It would be multiple first round picks, second, third round picks, and Patrick Surtain to get them to come off Caleb Williams, come off the number 1 overall pick. It's just simply not happening. Though it's fun to speculate now with CP in Philly, Vic Fangio in Philly. Fangio coached Surtain his rookie year. There were some, I don't want to call them rumors, but kind of speculation that Philly, if they were to make a splash, could be a landing spot for Patrick Surtain. But I feel like, Chad, the only way they're going to move PS2 is to go up in the draft, not downward.
Right. I don't know, man. It's just so much scuttlebutt around it. And with the Broncos, in these cases, at least traditionally, this was under different regimes, albeit, but usually when there was that much smoke surrounding something, it turned out that there was fire as well. I go back, Bill Barnwell, not exactly, or Zach, let me put it this way, not traditionally the kind of writer that is that succumbs easily to hyperbole or, lives outside the realm of plausible and realistic. He wrote up last week what it would take for the Broncos to get the number 1 overall pick with a feasible, let's put it that way, trade package with the Chicago Bears to move up and get number 1. He wrote, here's with a proposed trade for number 1 overall. Patrick Surtain, pick 12 this year, 2025 second and third round picks to move up to number 1. And I'm like, that actually, yeah, yes. But throw on 1 more first round pick, and that's probably what it would take.
That was exactly what I was going to say. I respect Barnwell. He's almost there. Way more so than I think it was Bleacher Report, one of their offers they threw out that I got crucified for somehow. But yeah, it's going to cost you multiple firsts and a star talent like Patrick Surtain just to even entertain that conversation. It's up to you whether you want to pull that trigger on that trade, but it takes 2 to tango. I don't think Chicago's coming off of him, Chad. Scott and I talked about this last night. I don't see Chicago passing on Caleb.
Sam Bam jumping in with a very generous super chat on a Monday evening here. Thank you, Sam. Really appreciate you. You know this, big dog. And Sam's got a jersey coming his way. We got to the bottom of that today from a previous giveaway that went to the Duchess, donated to Sam. Sam was saying one night, right? Hey, I've never won one. One of these days I'm going to win one. And Michaela's like, yo, I won. Give it to Sam. We got that ironed out, exactly what jersey. So looking forward to getting that out to you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, as always.
You the man. On that same subject, though, of, trading up and going back to what Woody Page, pardon me, in the column specifically that we were talking about Kirk Cousins, it was all a bunch of background and kind of funneling you down to the bottom line conclusion of the piece, which is Broncos. I'll quote him. The Broncos brass has only one option. For the first time in the franchise's 7 decades, draft a phenomenal quarterback, not a peanut butter cup. I'm not sure exactly what that means, the peanut butter cup thing, but the idea being, hey, you've really only slammed it in the draft once as far as nailing a quarterback in the draft, and you didn't technically draft him, right? John Elway was drafted by the Colts and then immediately traded to the Broncos. You cannot point to a Broncos drafted quarterback that has gone on to fully settle in as the future franchise guy. I mean, Tommy Maddox, don't make me laugh. Jay Cutler could have been, could have, would have, maybe should have in some alternate football universe. Zach, Mike Shanahan isn't fired after the 2008 season in which Jay Cutler went to the Pro Bowl. He's given another couple of bites at the apple, so to speak, to see if he can make hay with this quarterback he's not only chose but has obviously quickly developed. Maybe Jay Cutler goes on to have success in that alternate football universe, but who's next after him? Tim Tebow? 1 year's worth of success. Okay, but a future franchise guy or a guy that established himself as the future? Nay. The next first round pick, Paxton Lynch, big swing and a miss. A couple of second round guys that you kind of nibbled at in Brock Osweiler and Drew Lock. Osweiler, he did help you win a Super Bowl, but he wasn't the reason you won a Super Bowl. That's what a franchise quarterback is. So the point is, you've never actually had success drafting and developing a quarterback into a franchise guy. Sean Payton now gets the opportunity, Zach, to be that trailblazer anyway in Denver.
And earn his money as this, offensive genius guru who can develop any quarterback and make him successful, I guess, except for Russell Wilson. But I just want to push back against the argument some people have that say, well, the Broncos have never drafted and developed a quarterback successfully. I just hate that loser mentality. It's so weak to me, Chad. The Broncos have to keep swinging until they connect on a home run, a grand slam franchise quarterback pick. And I'll make a loose comparison. They whiffed badly on cornerback, if you recall, with Brennan Langley and Isaac Yiadom. It didn't stop them from taking Patrick Surtain in the first round in 2021. So just because you have failures doesn't mean you stop and shy away. It's cowardly.
Besides, what's the alternative? More middle of the road Band-Aids? No, same thing when you're teaching, when I'm teaching my 2.5-year-old son, Theo, to swing, to play, it's going to start with T-ball. That one's served right up to him. But when it comes time for the pitching, you got to swing, and if you miss, you learn from that, come back, swing again. Same thing for the Broncos. Mike jumping in again. Thank you, Mike. Brother. Very generous of you. Much love and respect to a bona fide super chat superstar here at MHH. He says the Jags got 2 firsts and a 4th for Jalen Ramsey from the Rams. Wouldn't Patrick Surtain be worth at least that? It's a fair point. But, and I think if you were just to trade him not for the sake of trading, but straight up, you were just like, oh, we want to get a couple more firsts, etc. You could probably get value like that out there on the market. But what we're talking about is parlaying or Surtain being used as a sweetener to move up the draft board. And the reality is, he's the only hope of the Broncos having a trump card to getting a team that's kind of not really that interested in moving off that pick, wants to stay, like the Bears, loves Caleb Williams. It's going to take an arm and a leg to get us off that. Oh, Patrick Surtain, that's your only hope. It's still far, though, Zach, from a guarantee. And I would even say it's probably still unlikely to happen because everything we're hearing, as much as Sean Payton and company might want to trade up, none of those three teams are really looking to risk losing out on one of the top three Qs.
Well, Mike, it's a fair point you're making if you're talking about PS2 in a vacuum. He's worth probably 2 first-round picks. But we're not talking about PS2 in a vacuum. We're talking about PS2 being included in a deal that the Broncos move up 11 spots from 12 to number 1, getting a team to drop down that far and pass on who they might believe is a generational franchise quarterback. So that's why, and we talked about this, Scott and I did, the Bears, the Commanders, the Patriots, they have all the leverage. They don't want to move down. They can stay put, take their guy, and be happy. If the Broncos want to move up, they're going to say, listen, you overpay and you pay through the nose or you're not getting the pick.
Indeed. James Moss jumping in, bro. Top rope super chat.
Thank you, James.
Thank you, bro. Means a lot to us. We love your profile pic. Still rocking the brand new Football Priest t-shirt. You are Prince. Everything you're doing to help support MHH, our show, and all the shows, it means a lot. It really does help us keep the lights on. So thank you, my friend. He says, I watched a lot of film over the weekend. I liked Bo Nix at first, which, by the way, hopefully some of that film, James, was all of the footage that Scott Kennedy got at the Senior Bowl last week. So, guys, when you get into the mood to kind of research some of these quarterbacks of the 2024 draft class, make sure you're subscribed to Scott Kennedy's channel because he's got a lot of the footage that you're not going to find anywhere else. He was there. And that's really all he was there for, footage. He says, James, I liked Bo Nix at first, but I love me some Spencer Rattler. Maybe we get him in the third. I just can't see us getting close to any of the top tier guys. Don't have enough ammo. See, that's the thing is, I think in a normal season, Zach, in a normal year, Broncos would have still plenty of ammo to bargain a trade up. But even as Woody Page writes in his column, as many as 10 NFL teams are on the hunt for a quarterback in this draft. And so when demand's that high and supply is slim, the cost, the price goes this way, goes up. And that's even more exacerbated, Zach, by the fact that the three teams sitting at the tippity top, they all are amongst the 10 that need a quarterback. And who knows, for example, when a team like the Patriots, I know Belichick's gone, but when's the next time you're going to be picking in the top three? Washington, whatever, Chicago, whatever, but still, that's a part of this.
We can debate Spencer Rattler, his fit, his NFL projection. I could see him, like you said, with quarterback being such a valued commodity. I could see Rattler going in the second, similar to Drew Lock in 2019. But there's three real scenarios that are realistic for the Broncos at quarterback in the draft. They either stay at 12 and take BPA. I know Scott hates that saying, but the highest quarterback rated on their board. They can move back a few spots and take McCarthy, Nix, Penix, whoever, or they take someone else in the first round. They don't have a second round pick, and they wait until the third to grab a Rattler or a Pratt or a Milton or somebody else. So I don't prefer they go that route, Chad. I would want more of a blue chip quarterback in the pipeline, but I could see it happening.
Of all the guys that are going to probably be taken, day two, whether it's late day two, early day three, I mean, most mocks I see of Rattler, even coming out of the Senior Bowl, have him as like a fourth round pick. But of all the quarterbacks that are in that zone, let's say late day two to early day three, Rattler's the guy I would see, Zach, with the most upside, not necessarily the most likely to be Dak Prescott at the next level, meaning unheralded in terms of his draft stock, but lands in the right situation with the right team, goes on to have success, and everyone's scratching their heads going, man, how did we miss that in the draft? Because this was a guy that was highly touted as a prep prospect going into college, a lot of kind of behavioral stuff, on field, off field. It really hurt his stock. He never quite was able to kind of capitalize, Zach, on that reputation he had coming out of high school. But the talent is there, on Rattler. It's just how far away is he from a coaching staff being able to turn him into a complete package? That's the big question, which is why he'll probably go somewhere late day two, early day three. if you don't take a cue in round one and you're the Broncos, that's one of the guys later on that I would say prioritize as a possibility.
Rattler is an intriguing one because I see a lot of Chad Kelly in him, whereas the arm talent and the physical tools are not in question. It's between the eyeballs and the attitude and the behavioral issues that you were talking about. Can you harness that and make him a franchise quarterback? I don't know, but I feel like Sean Payton has worked with lesser QBs and made chicken salad with them. So we'll see.
Indeed. George jumping in. Thank you, George. He says, I agree with Zach. I think trade back and get a quarterback in round 2 or maybe round 3 who we can make a franchise quarterback. Denver Broncos for life, MHH for life. I'm not sure that's exactly what you're asserting, Zach, but he likes that idea. What say you?
It's not my preference, George, but I think it's more realistic than hoping the Broncos move up to 1, 2, or 3, or even 7 or 8. There's no QB that's going to be available. Like Jaden Daniels is not falling out of the top 3, 4, 5. So yeah, if their guy is not on the board, if they're not sold on Nick, sold on Penix, move back, pick up a second rounder, and take a player at another position of need, of which there are many, Chad.
And look, I'm still not off of the possibilities of Bo Nix being the right fit for Sean Payton. He didn't make the most of his Senior Bowl opportunity. He was kind of like, hey, all the scouts and draft nicks that went to see how he would do last week were kind of like, yeah, that's about what we expected. Not necessarily were we surprised in any way. So you can look at that depending on the lens with which you're looking at it. You can look at it as good or bad. I think right now it's mostly being viewed as a negative relative to his draft stock, but there's still a long row left to hoe in terms of the combine and pro days and teams having meetings with him, falling in love, the right coach saying, oh, this is my guy. I could see it. I'm not completely off the notion, I guess, what I'm saying here, Zach, of Bo Nix being there at 12 and perhaps still being the right fit for Sean Payton. We'll see. Gary, legendary, mythical Mount Rushmore Super Chat superstar, member of our community. We love you, Gary. He says, good evening, MHH and Broncos country. Go Broncos, indeed.
Thank you, Gary. And yeah, about Bo Nix, Chad, I feel like a lot of people are overreacting to his Senior Bowl and kind of drawing narratives based on that. I do think he'll still test well throughout the pre-draft process, and who knows, he'll be in the mix at number 12 potentially.
Yeah, I'm seeing, well, I'll put a pin in the Sam Bam, brother. Thank you. Jumping in again tonight. He says, it's been my understanding that Rattler had first-round talent, but had attitude and chemistry with teammates issues. He would need a good coach like Sean Payton to keep him in the rails. Rattler in the 3rd or 4th round. You're pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much the book on him is, first round arm with a 4th round brain type thing or character, whatever. I think mostly it was just imagine being like you're a young senior in high school and you're the man, you're the alpha. Everyone's telling you you're going to be the next Patrick Mahomes. How easy it would be, like putting myself in a person like that's shoes to kind of buy into that and maybe too much so to the point where you get to the next level. You're at Oklahoma. You're being coached by one of college football's perceived quarterback whisperers. And for some reason, you're not turning into Patrick Mahomes. What the heck is going on? You're throwing fits. You're creating issues. You transfer. You end up in South Carolina. My biggest doubts with him is, well, not doubts. What happened at South Carolina? That's really what the most recent Zach material we have with which to analyze on the subject of Spencer Rattler. But there's no doubt he does have first-round aspects to his game.
Sam, I 100% agree with the first couple sentences there. Where you kind of lose me, though, is Sean Payton keeping him on the rails. And why I say that is because Payton is going to be 61 in December. I don't think he wants to sit around and babysit a quarterback who may or may not turn out to be the franchise guy. Sean Payton wants to win now. He needs to win now. He failed with Russell Wilson. He has to get the quarterback pick correct.
No doubt. No doubt. Phil, brother, down in Tucson, we love you. Appreciate you. Good evening. He says, I just got a feeling that Rattler is going to surprise us on how high he winds up going. I don't care what we do, but it doesn't make sense to get the seed and not have a farm. Hashtag Buckham MHS for life. Go Broncos. Yeah, I don't know. That might be something, Zach, you and I disagree on a little bit. I think relative to Sean Payton, no, it might be up for debate how interested Sean Payton is in developing a young quarterback. I think that situation kind of dictates that that's kind of irrelevant in the sense that, look, that's the situation you're in. Like, you're moving on from Russ. You're not going back to a band-aid move. You're going to draft a quarterback. You kind of have to be ready and willing to develop him. But the point Zach, I think, is trying to make, and you correct me if I'm wrong, my brother, is having to develop and deal with a personality that's not mature for, you know, mature on the vine, so to speak, ready for that situation to be developed, to work with a guy like Peyton and make the most of it. So that's one of the questions here, right? There's a difference between, say, developing a Bo Nix, or even if you were to trade up and get a Caleb Williams or any of the top three, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, a quarterback, Zach, who's dying and loves the opportunity to work with a Sean Payton and doesn't bring many character, if any, character concerns to the table, versus a quarterback who may actually be on a similar level talent-wise with those guys, but is going to take some additional massaging and some long suffering and patience to kind of grow him up, so to speak.
Well, the other point I was going to make was Sean Payton wants what in a quarterback, Chad? He wants a quarterback to play in structure, on schedule, to be kind of pro ready and know his assignments, get the ball out. I don't see that in Spencer Rattler. I think he needs a lot of coaching, especially year one. He's still very green, and then all the other stuff you have to worry about between the years. Maybe we do disagree. I just think that Sean would prefer more of a blue chip quarterback prospect if he can land one.
Yeah, on that, okay, so it's more me not perceiving what you were saying correct. Definitely, I think Sean Payton has to know at this point, Zach, that, you know, we talked about this before on the show. Whatever honeymoon grace period he was given as the big name, you know, former Super Bowl champion head coach that was hired by the Broncos a year ago, that is over. And not just because they went 8-9 in year one, but because, you know, you started off on an historically bad footing. Then you battle back, you squander the battling back to not only miss the playoffs, but then you bench Russell Wilson in a move that kind of was ham-fisted, not very well. What's a good way? Not explained very well. Not kind of anticipated in a sense where you prepared the media and the fan base for such a move. And so I think the bloom is off the rose, and I think Sean Payton knows that. He might be getting Zach assurances from the Walton Penner Group that everything's cool. We're believing you. Do your thing. We know it's going to take time to, you know, continue turning the ship around. But he's also the same guy that at the podium when he was announcing that the Broncos had made a quarterback change on a Wednesday, if on a Wednesday, announcing there's a change, getting the questions about it, and him saying, "Look, you know, it's the best football decision for our team. It's a football decision. And look, if I don't make this decision now and do something now, it could be a different guy standing up here talking to you this time next year." So he recognizes that, which goes back to what you're saying. In a perfect world, if Sean Payton can control the variables, yes, he wants a quarterback that is more day one ready than necessarily having to go, you know, BPA at 12, third round Spencer Rattler, and let's kind of hope for the best. And at least we've got, you know, Jarrett Stidham just in case.
What do we know about Sean Payton after 1 year? As a certainty, he has a big ego. He has a lot of pride. And just like Russell Wilson, his reputation is being blackened since his time with the Broncos because it's how it's gone so far. Russell Wilson is a direct reflection on Sean Payton's coaching ability. He's known as this guru, quarterback whisperer, one of the best coaches of this generation. It didn't really work out. I think he wants a little bit of a safer bet if he's going to hitch his wagon to someone else's star again.
Indeed. All right, guys, we're approaching 40 minutes tonight. It's been a great conversation so far. Time just flies when you're having fun and talking shop, so to speak, with your friends. I love it. Jeremy Sean in the house too. I'm seeing in the chat. So good to see you. String guy, any questions? Get them in the chat. We'll get them up. I might have missed it, but we'll keep an eye out for one from you specifically. Okay, Zach, on the subject of Spencer Rattler, I just want to dial it back real quick. Me saying, hey, what's the latest sample we have from Spencer Rattler, aside from obviously what he did last week at the Senior Bowl? after transferring from Oklahoma to South Carolina for the Gamecocks. How did he perform? I'm going to answer that. So 2022, he passed for 3,000, just over 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 12 picks. This past season in the SEC, 31, just under 3,200 yards passing, Zach, 19 touchdowns, 8 picks. Really high college quarterback ratings across the board. How much does SEC level of competition factor into him going from, hey, I passed for 28 touchdowns to 7 picks in my second season at Oklahoma to, finishing his collegiate career or punctuating it, maybe is a better way, with 19.
Well, the competition is always important. You don't want him facing the Wisconsin Whitewaters of the college ranks, Chad. But it's really about if you have it or if you don't. The God given physical abilities, and I don't even mean his arm or anything like that. I mean his processing, his mental acuity, how he can compose himself. If he can be a leader at the professional level. Those are the concerns I have with Rattler. I'm sure Sean Payton would love the competition that he went up against, though.
So Jeremy says, hey, look, both Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler had some football rehab at their second schools. Both seemed to have gotten it together. So that's a reminder. Bo Nix did not begin his collegiate career at Oregon, also an SEC guy. I don't know. How much have you heard, Zach, about Rattler? Let's just say Rattler's maturation process.
I agree with the comment. I think he settled down and maturing as a 20-something would, but there's always the possibility of a what's the word I'm looking for? Of a relapse in terms of attitude. Look at Chad Kelly. Chad, we all thought it was under control and he was on the verge of maybe getting the starting job in Denver. Then he goes out on Halloween and gets into a fight with the guy with a vacuum cleaner. There's always the possibility that the shoe is going to drop. And I don't want that possibility with a quarterback that I'm maybe handing the keys of the franchise over to.
Yeah, I want to grab this from String Guy and then follow it up with something Jeremy says here. String Guy says, I think the big question about Bo Nix, so shifting gears back to Nix, is how he'll handle pressure and his arm strength. I see his accuracy as very good, kind of like a Brock Purdy. I would take a chance on Nix or J.J. McCarthy. So that has been one of, I won't say a knock, but a question. It's been one of the questions about Nix's game is, hey, when you are pressured, how do you perform? And not only that, from a decision-making process, but when the ball needs to get there, with some zip, do you have the ability to put that mustard on it? Jeremy says, well, did anyone watch the Senior Bowl? Bo Nix had a 60-yard flea flicker, hit his receiver in the hands, and he dropped it. It was his only incompletion. No problem with arm strength. So where do you come down on that subject, Zach, of Nix and his relative arm?
It's important. It's impressive, and I saw a completion he had in the end zone. It was perfectly placed. It's never the arm strength. It's how day one ready is he? How much development is he going to need in year one? But we talked about mobility, and both Nix and McCarthy have the ability to use their legs. They're not Lamar Jackson, but they can move. They can get out of pressure. They can climb the pocket. They can get out of trouble. How often this season did Russell Wilson, because he lost that physical ability, he lost most of the playmaking use of his legs, how often did he find himself under pressure or on the ground or being sacked? That was a big deal breaker for Sean Payton that I think he'd fall in love with either Nix or McCarthy.
Yeah, I go back to the word that Scott used to describe the ideal Sean Payton quarterback, and that is a robot, not in the mindless, brainless sense, or slave type sense, but in the idea of he's robotic in that you can count on a robot to be where he's supposed to be and kind of do what he's supposed to do. And the best quarterbacks in the NFL, there is a robotic nature to what they do, like their process, how they make decisions, how they read the field, all the way down through their technique. And Russell Wilson, there really hasn't ever been. I'll say this: if there was anything robotic about Russ during his 10 years in Seattle, anyway, it was he was just a guy that you maybe wouldn't know how to anticipate it shaking out exactly, but when the chips were down, he would find a way in almost a robotic sense. Like he could not be stopped. Like Optimus Prime, I'll take you all on. He just had that stubbornness to go down. He'd find a way. But in the sense of what Sean Payton's looking for, pocket presence, make your reads, maximize the guys around you, make sure you're actually running off the playbook, all those things, that's not necessarily Russ's strong suit. And a guy like Bo Nix, probably no problem, who also has some athleticism to his game, as you mentioned. McCarthy, I'm not as sure of. I think Drake May. I think basically any of those, we'll say even Michael Penix, I think, would be good relative to the maybe not so much Jaden Daniels, but to the idea of the robot that Sean Payton kind of prioritizes.
Yeah, because Russ lost that in his legs, he became robotic with the Broncos in the sense that it was one read, it was nothing in the middle of the field, and if he scrambled, it was horizontal, never vertical, and he got into more trouble. So that's what I do like about mobile quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels is probably a pipe dream, but Bo Nix, McCarthy, I can talk myself into because they have that second layer of their game, Chad.
True. We've got the Duchess checking in, Michaela Parker with the generous super.
Thank you, Michaela.
Michaela, in case you missed it, we're doing the raffle for the January jersey on Thursday night, just FYI. Thank you for the super chat tonight. She says, just wanted to say, MHH rocks. We love you. Thank you, Michaela. You rock so hard.
Thank you, Michaela.
George Fox jumping in to say, pardon me, I like the Tennessee quarterback, Joe Milton III. He has a great arm and looked good at the Senior Bowl, and he's a big guy. Yeah, but he's another one of those, you didn't get your guy in round 1, so you take a flyer in round 3 or 4 guys. He's not a round 1 caliber guy because he's still got a lot left to develop, and he's still pretty raw.
This is Scott's guy, though. We were talking about this on last night's podcast. He doesn't want Michael Pratt. I don't think he wants Spencer Rattler. He's a Milton guy. And again, if that's where the Broncos go, it's not the sexy route is trading back in round 1, stockpiling some capital or draft pick, Scott, and then taking your quarterback in round 3. If that's where they go, if Sean Payton signs off, then Sean we trust.
What do you think? And Scott, show me with the fingers, with the round of that you see Milton landing. Yeah, 3rd round. So probably the same for Spencer Rattler, unless he has some huge stock. I mean, unless obviously his stock, Zach, has improved by virtue of the Senior Bowl. That's a good thing for him. Sometimes we in the media kind of jump the shark and make too much of a prospect, especially a quarterback, improving his stock at a function like the Senior Bowl or the Combine or something like this. And believe it or not, there are also times where we don't make enough of it, where the quarterback really does a lot more behind the closed doors of the NFL front offices to improve their stock than we maybe foresaw. And he ends up going way higher than projected. It wouldn't completely shock me, Zach, if Rattler went higher than, say, round 3, but that's about where I see him going.
What seems more tantalizing to you? Broncos country, Chad, everyone. I'm going to give you 2 options. Penix and Jarrett Stidham, or Bo Nix and Jarrett Stidham, or Joe Milton and Jarrett Stidham, or Michael Pratt and Jarrett Stidham, or Spencer Rattler and Jarrett Stidham. Again, it's all subjective. It's a matter of what Sean Payton wants. Is the opinion that all that counts? But I'd rather go for the blue chip guy if I could, Chad, like Drake May.
I would as well. But if you're saying you missed, there just wasn't a guy there for you at 12. You didn't believe in Nix. You didn't believe in McCarthy or Penix, and by the time you're back on the clock in the 3rd round, those guys are gone. I would prefer, say, a Rattler over Pratt and even over a Milton, although I got to spend more time watching the Tennessee quarterback. Duchess jumping in again. Love you. She says, I heard North Carolina quarterback, most commonly projected as the number 2 overall pick, Drake May, is falling and will be within reach. Is this true? What are you hearing on this front, Zach?
I was looking to see if I can grab something to be hyperbolic and say, Michaela, I will eat this on camera if Drake May falls to number 12. That is my QB1, arguably, in this class. And I know it's controversial, but I think that May is a better fit for Sean Payton than even Caleb Williams would be. I would be head over heels. I would run the pick to the podium if he's there, or even at 9, 10, 11, 12, where you can trade up. I don't see him falling, Chad. I just don't see it happening.
And plus, what has happened in the interim that may have affected his stock? Nothing. He's not at the Senior Bowl. There hasn't been a combine yet. Like, what could have taken him from top three consideration to suddenly on the decline? Yeah, we need to find. I haven't heard anything on that front, Michaela. But I'll keep my ear to the floor and ask around on that. So we shall see. We shall see. But I think Drake May is one of those quarterbacks that, I mean, if he did fall to Sean Payton at number 12 overall, it would be the dream, dude. I mean, I don't see it happening, but he'd be one of the, I think, better quarterback fits for Sean Payton.
I would absolutely be doing cartwheels live on camera if that happened. So, but hopefully you guys will see that soon.
But guys, we're about out of time here. So before we dip on out, we got a few messages for you. So don't leave anything burning. They'll get it in the chat. We'll grab it right before we dip out. But Zach's got something to say.
Yes, sir. Another great episode of the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some MHH merch, you know what it is, where it is, mhhmerch.com, and get you some. If you haven't, please drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your Football Priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans. That's right, you guessed it, just like you.
By the way, I think I found the source of Michaela's question here. I'm reading here from a Tony Catalina of Pro Football Network, who writes, let's see, according to Lance Zerline. So let me go to Zerline. What's he saying here? Zerline on Twitter, trending. One NFL evaluator told Lance Zerline that he thinks Drake May could be the quarterback that falls in this year's draft. According to, he told apparently Daniel Jeremiah. May is currently projected to go anywhere from the first overall pick to number 3 in the draft. Could he fall? Close quote. So that's where this is coming from, Zach, is one evaluator, one league scout, or one league personnel person, could be a scout, could be a GM, could be an executive, floating to Zerline that May could fall. And to me, that smacks of a team that is outside the top 3, basically trying to torpedo this cat's draft stock to have a snowball's chance of landing him.
I was going to say, it sounds like George Payton is putting out that nasty work to get May to fall to 12, but you're right. This is lying season, Chad. It's deception season, and I wouldn't be surprised if what you said turned out to be the case.
David, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. And he's all about JJ McCarthy. We shall see how things turn out. Ronk's all about JJ McCarthy as well. Very interesting. We'll see. We'll see. I do need to probably spend a little bit more time watching this kid, but what I have spent, and obviously watching him the last couple of years at Michigan in some of the bigger games, I'm not sold. But guys, love you. Appreciate each and every one of you for being with us tonight. A mile high salute and a special, some special love and respect to the great Super Chat superstars and supporters this evening. Michaela, David McElrath, Lawrence Rivera, The Ronk, Mike Edel, Sam Bam, James Moss going big, George Fox, Gary Palmer, Phil McLaughlin. Love each and every one of you. And remember, when Zach and I are back Thursday night, we're going to do the jersey raffles. It's going to be a gas. Can't wait to be there with you guys. And we'll see what happens on the rumor front between now and then, Zach. Heck, we might even get something shake loose on the Russ front. After all, January, was it 8th or 9th? Still more than a couple of weeks ago, Sean Payton and company stood at their podium for their end of season presser saying, yeah, this isn't going to be a long drawn out thing with Russ. And yet here we are.
Yeah, Russ watch continues on. Hopefully we have some news for you on Thursday, but we'll see you then. Have a great start to your week. Take care. And as always, Go Broncos.